Okay, I got all my stuff ready now. So basically, this one is number 16. This is the one I'm not going to replace. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little mark right there. Just a little mark on that one. So that way when I'm soldering these or unsoldering these, I'll know to leave this one alone for right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start on this side. I'm going to start on this one right here. I'll try to get this centered. So these three little pieces right here of solder is the number 1. And I'm hoping that you'll be able to see the solder wick in action. I might have to make this full screen for you all on watching this. So I'm gonna take my rag and my soldering iron, and I'm just gonna, oops, too much water there. Take my soldering iron and just run it through, clean off the junk off my solder tip, just like that. So it'll look better than that, but you know, for this will work. So what we do is you put a little piece solder wick over the connection that you're trying to solder, and then you use your iron as heat to suck up the solder. And sometimes it takes just a couple of seconds for the solder to start sucking into the wick here, which it's not doing for me. So I just have to kind of leave it in there and get the hot tip. So there we go. As you can see, some of that solder has gone into that. Just have to get the right side of my tip on the connection and get it hot so it'll suck in the solder. Oh, it gets hot too. So as you can see, I'm not doing a very good job right now, but as you can see, the solder is actually being wicked into the solder wick. So you might have to kind of hook the tip on your solder and then kind of push it up against the little piece that's standing up to get the wick to come out, or the solder to come out onto the wick. And it just takes a little practice to get it. You have to get them both hot. You have to get the wick hot, and then you have to get the solder hot. And that's not doing a really good job for me. But it is taking some of the solder with it, because I can see a little silver pop up on the wick. So it's not really working really that great. Like I said, I've used this method before and it works really good. Maybe I'm just not giving it enough time, or this solder wick that I'm using is dried out or something. I'm not sure exactly, but it's not cooperating for me. So let me try something else here. I'll be right back, okay? Okay, I'm back now. I had to put my glasses on. Couldn't really tell if the solder is coming out, and it is, except for this middle one. It's not really coming out yet, so I have to heat it up, make sure the solder wick is on the actual solder itself, so that way it'll take all the solder with it as it goes. I think I've already gotten these. Yes, that one's a little bit, still got a little bit of solder. So you have to hook your, as you see, I'm putting my tip in against the leg of the IC and kind of wrapping the solder wick around and pushing it against it, so that way the solder will get sucked up into the wick. So there we go. All of them look like they're pretty much almost broke loose. And these will be a little tricky because the connections are so small, and the solder usually goes from here down to the bottom of the board to the other side, and you just have to get all that solder out. So what I like to do sometimes is push against the leg, so that way it moves in the hole and sucks the rest of the solder out. So that way it'll come right out. Sometimes these can be a little pain in the butt sometimes to get them broke loose. But it looks like all the solder's out of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to wiggle. Ooh, it's hot. Wiggle. I'm just grabbing the metal here and just kind of wiggling it just a little to see if there's any resistance, and there is. So I have to figure out why it's not coming out. So I'm going to take my piece that I have here, just cut that off, because once you use this, you just throw it away. So let's see if we can get this in here. It's kind of hard to hold this. It's uneven, and I'm pushing against it with the solder underneath, solder wick underneath it, so that way it will pull whatever solder's in there. If I can get my tip in there we go, and get the heat in there, so that way it'll pull the solder out and up. These look really good. So what I may have to do is grab the IC and put a little heat on each one of these and whittle them loose. And that way maybe whatever solder's in there will come out. The IC will just fall out. It doesn't look like any of these are moving. That one's moving. Yeah, as you can probably see, I don't know if you can or not, let me check. The solder on this one, if you can see, let me move this around a little bit for you. Kind of right there. See, there's a little bit of solder around that one that goes all the way through this board, and there's some solder, residual solder on the back side of the IC there, because that solder will run all the way through from the back side here, all the way through this board up to the legs of the IC right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my solder and wick and put it up to these legs here, and try to suck out the rest of that solder on all three of those. So I'll have to turn this board over and get on the back side, and I'll just kind of, you can just kind of watch me as I do it on the back side, and I'll just put the wick like I just did on the bottom and go on the bottom here through here and try to suck some of that solder out and hopefully get that IC out without too much problems. Hopefully. So, solder right through there. Yeah, so I just heard a little pop of that solder coming out. So I'm going to try to do the middle one. Kind of push on it a little bit just to kind of rock it in the hole it's sitting in. Just a little bit, not, you don't have to use a lot of force to maybe get some of that out. So I'm trying to cup the leg and the board and the solder in between like a blanket and push on the legs and get the heat into it so it'll break loose. I'm just trying to push on the legs so that way it'll break loose of the hole and should be coming loose. Takes a little bit of time to do this, but like I said, I've used this method before and it's worked really well. Of course, when I'm videoing right now, it's not working as good as it normally should. But this has rosin on it, so it should have enough to pull the solder out. And all I'm going to do is just kind of rock this thing left and right. I don't want to break it. I'm just trying to see if I can break the connection between the solder and the legs that are coming through the board. I'm just trying to break that connection so that way I can pull the IC out without damaging the board, and it looks like they're still connected. So let me check. Yeah, you can see that. So just go back and grab some more. Get it on a fresh piece of solder wick and just push. I'm pushing it this way so that way I can break any solder that may be in there. And this is getting a little warm, so just be careful when you're doing this. Because this board does get a little hot. I'm trying to push against the leg here in the hole with the solder, get it hot so the solder wick will pull up the pull the solder out of the hole. Try to get it hot and get it in there. So I don't know what kind of solder they use. The stuff I used to do this on, never had any problems getting these broke loose. Usually you just take the solder and you just unwick it, and see right now it's actually very loose right now. The middle leg is the one that's holding on to it because I've gotten a lot more motion out of this thing now. And just, there we go. Well, the leg broke. But as you can see, if you can, well, let me see if I can point this out to you. Where the, like I was saying earlier, the wider section here, right there, is usually what sits on the board, and then the legs will get run through the holes and soldered in to the board. So as you can see, the little wider legs up here at the top, well, top right here are wider than the legs that go on through, and that's usually where the IC stops. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my solder, or one of my new chips, and put them in there and see if that's where the new ones will stop at that same point, and the chip will be level with the other chips, so that way I can take the hole and mount it to the heatsink. So while I'm up, I'll take one of the new ones, and I can't really put it in there till I get that other one out. So I've got to get that middle leg. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat it from the top on this area here. I'm going to heat it from here, and then I'm going to pull with my pliers on that middle leg. You can see the middle leg still stuck in there. Right there it is. I'm going to pull on this and heat it from this side to pull that leg out. And then once I get that out, I'll take my IC, put it in, and make sure it lines up, because these look about the same length as the old one. Compare them. Let's see if you can see the number on that one. Kind of hard to see, but if you can see that number, and as you can see on this, wipe it off a little bit here. Can't really see anything on that chip compared to this one, but as you can see, they're almost identical. Looks like they have the same writing on them. As far as I can see, it's not really telling me anything. But anyway, as you can see, the wide portion, get these hold right. Wide portion is a little smaller on the new chip than it is on the old. So, but anyway, so once I get that leg out, then I'll replace this. So let me work on this, and I'll be right back to get this little piece